So Qiyana is a ton of fun, but she's pretty difficult to get the hang of. So here's a quick guide to get you started that you can watch even in Champion Select. So Qiyana is a slippery burst assassin capable of one-shotting her targets in a glance, and she also has an incredibly versatile ultimate that can stun and damage entire teams. Qiyana's kit has a ton of cool tricks and combos, and generally she has a really high skill ceiling. Qiyana can be very difficult to learn though, and incredibly weak when she's put behind. If you don't get ahead on this champion, you're going to really struggle to be effective. When it comes to your runes, you're almost always going to want to follow this setup. So first off, Electrocute helps out with your trades and your burst windows. Sudden Impact is easy to proc with all of your mobility, and Ravenous Hunter gives you healing, which is actually very effective seeing as you don't have any innate or itemized sustain. After that, jump into the Precision Tree for some extra mana replenishment and damage at lower health. For your skill order, max Q, W, E in order of your damage priority. Okay, time to talk about some items, and Prowler's Claw is definitely the go-to mythic for Qiyana. It adds even more mobility and burst damage, which are two of Qiyana's greatest qualities. This item also heavily contributes to your dive potential and further increases the amount of combos you can pull off with this crazy champion. Eclipse is another option you can go for though. It gives you a touch more survivability with its shield and its movement speed boost. After your mythic, you want to get your lucidity boots as quickly as possible. Yumu's Ghostblade is then your next priority unless you're against heavy shield comps, in which case Serpent's Fang is definitely the best option. Then you can follow these items with Serylda's Grudge and Edge of Night for your core item options. If you want some defensive choices, more of Mortius, Death's Dance and Guardian Angel are all perfectly viable options depending on the enemy team's threats. And finally, there are a few situational items that you may want to consider in certain games. These are Axiomark, Chempunk Chainsword and Black Cleaver. Moving on to matchups now, and Qiyana is best in lanes where she can truly abuse her all-in potential with her early burst damage and mobility. You can look to take quick trades with your QWQ combo and your auto attacks and keep poking them down with Electrocute until you find a chance to all in. When you've got your ultimate, your kill potential grows significantly as well, so don't be afraid to get stuck in and chase that early kill lead. Qiyana struggles against lanes that have high defensive tools to prevent her from killing them. You're going to need to play far smarter in these matchups, as if you just play as you would normally, you could get heavily punished for it. Focus on fighting around your enemy's major defensive cooldowns and look to take them out when they misplay with these abilities. Don't forget, Qiyana is also fantastic at roaming and ganking too, so if you are having a bit of a tough time in lane, maybe look elsewhere to have an influence on the game that way instead. Qiyana works pretty well into the majority of team comps, but she excels when combined with champions who can either A, contribute to those early fights alongside her and help her snowball, or B, contribute to team fights with huge initiation and AoE crowd controlling abilities. Any big abilities that can set Qiyana up for a massive wombo combo follow-up will definitely increase her effectiveness in team fights. In the early game, you should look to harass your enemy with your QWQ combo and your auto attacks. Your passive also really helps out when dealing damage, so make sure you're weaving in autos whenever you can. After a few trades around Electrocute, you may want to look to all in with Ignite if your opponent is low enough. As a general rule, when the enemy mid laner is on around 60% health, they are in your kill range. But you will need to do a little bit of limit testing when learning this champion. Getting early kills and advantages on Qiyana will help you snowball quickly and allow you to carry much easier. Your E is a great way to either get on top of your enemies to start fighting them or to escape after a fight. Try to weigh up which is the best option depending on the matchup. You're probably going to use it more pre-6 to start fights, and then post-6 it'll be more useful as an escape, especially when tower diving. Your element Q choices in lane are fairly diverse, but you can use either the water or brush element as you please, if you think they are appropriate. However, you almost always want to finish your combo off with a terrain Q, as it deals bonus damage if your enemy is less than 50% health. Once you've got your ultimate, your kill potential is much higher, so don't be afraid to get stuck in for those early kills with it, or even just look to roam, as it's really good at ganking too. In teamfights, you have two main ways to play. You can either focus on assassinating a particular target with your one-shot combos and burst, or you can look to play the AoE game and look to land a huge multiple target ultimate. When it comes to assassinating a main enemy threat, you need to try and look for flanks. So pick up an Oracle Lens and look to get behind those teams to pop down their main carries without them just being able to sit behind their front line. When looking for that big ultimate though, try and be conscious of the terrain around you. If you're fighting in open lanes, this will be much harder to execute, but if you catch an enemy team out in a choke point, you can easily win the fight and potentially even the game for your team. In the majority of 5v5s, you should always prioritize your brush element Q. The stealth just makes you so hard to shut down, especially if your enemies are lacking AoE damage, as without it, they basically can't kill you. Spam this ability as much as you want and use it to wait for your burst cooldowns to be back up again. So let's finish off this quick Qiyana guide with a few tips. Qiyana's ultimate can be used with allied abilities that involve terrain. This makes her uniquely effective alongside Jarvan, Taliyah, Anivia, and even Trundle. Qiyana's E is a fixed distance dash, similar to Yasuo's E. This means you can use it on minions or champions to escape from ganks if you use it whilst they're right next to you. This is also a fundamental part of your one-shot turret diving combo, as you'll use Prowler's Claw to get to your enemy and save your E to escape it afterwards. Don't forget to combine your Q with your E to almost never miss this ability. Your Q automatically targets enemies recently hit with your E, meaning it's a great way to consistently land this ability. Thanks for checking out this short guide on Qiyana. Good luck and have fun.